Hello, my name is Jeremy Davies. I'm a registered mental nurse working in North Wales. I'm a nurse that works with people of the age over the age of 65 with ongoing mental health problems. And today I'm talking with my colleague Peter, who's in South Wales. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. Yourself? And can you tell
Yeah,
me
not too bad.
Good.
Yeah, so my name's Peter. I'm a staff nurse in Brecon Community Hospital. I work on a general medical ward, and I've just been, I was going to say, promoted to a clinical skills trainer, so taking up a new position in the next month or so.
Excellent. So is that to a higher pay band as well?
So yeah, going up to, I'm 57. I'm going to be a junior sister.
Nice. Now, as a 56-year-old, I can empathise. So, well, I've been involved in this business for 33 and a half years now. So yourself?
Well, I'm a newbie. I only recently qualified, so 2 years now. 2019, I qualified as a nurse. Previous to that, I was in the healthcare business. I've been a pharmacist since I was 21, but then swapped to do nursing after I lost both my parents, and that prompted me to come into the nursing profession. So qualified, and then I'm currently still studying. I'm doing a master's in palliative care. So yeah, still studying.
Now that's a solid thing. I've done some palliative care work, but never to the point of further training on it. And that's answered why you came into it as well. Myself, I came into it far enough back into the day. I was under Margaret Thatcher's Army of the Unemployed, so it was a secure job, and I managed to accidentally fall into the domain of mental health, and I've been there ever since.
Okay.
Which
so do you find that, obviously you find that like a very rewarding area to be working in it?
It's been kind of nice. It's meant when we've had family illness, it's meant I've been able to look after my family better as well. And it's nice from the point of there's so much that people of an age, shall we say, they've had experiences that we will never have, and to get to be part of that journey, to get to make part of their life better as well, it's an incredibly positive thing. So you moved from a pharmacist to a nurse?
Yeah, I know. It's a bit. I still practice as a pharmacist every now and then, and I was going to say this COVID situation has meant that I do some work like at the mass vaccination centres for South Powys up in North Wales at the showground there. So I swap my hat for a pharmacy hat, but generally I'm on the ward, and that's kind of my passion. So yes, I came into nursing after losing both my parents, and I think probably more so after I lost my my mother, and she was in a hospice. That's what prompted me to sort of into the nursing profession. And like you mentioned before, like one of the reasons why I wanted to go down the palliative care route, and the hospital here has been kind of ideal really for sort of finding my feet and making sure that's the path I wanted to go in, because we generally have a couple of palliative patients on the ward at any one time. So I've been kind of cutting my teeth, as it were, at the beginning, and making sure that's what I wanted to do, and then branched out, and I'm in the middle of my MSc now in palliative care. So and
all of that in the middle of everything that's gone on in the last year or so as well.
Yeah, so it's been quite a hectic last 18 months.
Hasn't it just? Well, I suppose it's looked challenging enough to ourselves as nurses. I mean, as you said about your role and ours, where we dipped in and out of going from being a mental health ward to a COVID triage facility, and now we're going back to a mental health ward again. So it's changed our perspective as nurses on a lot of things. But I don't know, do you feel it's changed how the public see us as nurses and changed some of the roles of things? And maybe it's interesting this time.
I think to a certain extent it probably has. It's like obviously pushed nursing into very much into the forefront, isn't it, of people's perceptions of what we do, and all the images of like seeing nurses struggling, especially during last year when it was boiling hot in all the PPE, looking after people on wards, and also perhaps some of the strains that we've had that they sort of don't appreciate. I can remember, sort of when food and things were short, wasn't it, and we were struggling, I'm not sure about you, but certainly myself, like at the end of a 12.5 hour shift, and you wanted to go home and you want to pop into the shop and get something, and like the shelves are bare because they've been emptied out and struggling a little bit. And I think that when in terms of like the general population sort of suddenly started to realize that, do you know what, we actually need to value these people maybe a little bit more than we have in the past.
I mean, with us, it was kind of strange. We'd have random acts of kindness from strangers. So at one point, we had the local Kellogg's plant deliver a couple of containers full of cereal, or we'd have a random takeaway order arrive for a unit full of staff. Or at one point, if you could believe it, on a summer's day in the middle of lockdown, an ice cream van appeared. And it was just like free ice creams if any staff wanted them. So we had the same thing as yourselves. Sort of, it was difficult. At the one level, it was special because you got priority in the queues, but sometimes when you went off shift, there wasn't anything there to get because of the shortage of supplies. But we also had, we were talking a little bit before we did this, and as you said, the clapping. Certainly where we were, we had, in our streets, we had people outside the houses clapping on a Thursday night. But you raised a point yourself just then when we talked before this about the fact that the clapping didn't go as far as the hospital.
Yeah, so like in sort of in the area here, it's fairly rural, even though the hospital itself is in Brecon. So, there were people clapping in town, but obviously sort of situated so we couldn't hear it. And it's even my daughter used to sort of message sometimes and say, oh, could you hear the people clapping outside? It's like, well, actually, on a busy ward inside the hospital, it's like possible for us to sort of appreciate some of that. But seeing some of it back then on social media and on the news and things, it did make a difference. It did make you feel valued, that people are actually like rallying around and supporting you in what you were doing. Because the shifts are long, aren't they? And it's 24-hour care. We're working on the wards day and night. It's not just a 9 to 5 job. And we all go into it for different reasons, but we're all very passionate about why we're doing it. And they say it's a vocation, and probably is, but it's something that yes, I feel quite strongly about. It should be sort of perhaps better rewarded financially. I'm kind of lucky in a way, that because I still keep my registration as a pharmacist, I can do other bits and pieces if I need to, like in a pharmacy role. But I know certainly like a lot of my colleagues on the ward, obviously they are a nurse, and that's their actual sort of profession, and they don't have the opportunity to do other things, and some of them have struggled. And as I say, I'm quite fortunate really in that I can give up an extra shift on the ward for one of them to take over, and I can go and do sort of a pharmacy job somewhere because they're equally under pressure.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from my standpoint, because one of the things you wonder about I mean, we're saying about sort of we having the clapping and people recognise us for it, but when we look about whether we're appropriately recognised or we're paid for it, I know I did some reading about it following on from, I think my circumstance is a little different. I'm due to get married, even at 57 years of age. And with that marriage comes, I've been incredibly lucky. In the space of 2 years, I've picked up 2 teenage daughters as well. And, you know, it's been great with all of what happened. And as we said, the clapping and the random acts of kindness turning up from people. But we're kind of in a circumstance now where, you know, over the last, and it didn't affect me so much when I was single. It was a bit like, as you said, with your, you know, you could do a shift as a pharmacist to make up for it. And when I was single, it didn't make so much of a thing. But now I'm on the verge of getting married, and now I've got children, albeit teenagers. And I was reading into it, and it shows how much over time our pay actually didn't keep up with the cost of living. And it's actually, in real terms, it's dropped. And I was shocked to find it's dropped by something like 14% in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're actually in a circumstance where when the government were talking about a 1% pay rise, or a couple of years ago when they were talking about a 6.5% pay rise over a span of 3 years, is a circumstance that meant that you're still out of pocket and your money's still dropping. And that shows in my monthly pay. Well, it doesn't show my monthly pay packet. My monthly pay packet shows that I've got so many £100 coming in every month. That's great. But when you compare it to the prices of the food in the shops, or the cost of my car insurance, or the cost of the household bills, that's when you can see the pay kind of sort of going slowly down over time. And that's where it gets to feel a bit like the kick in the teeth. That kind of, on the one hand, the government, we deserve 1%, we deserve, this is what we can do, this is what we can afford. As we've both agreed, we've both worked in a circumstance that, you know, really maybe we should be getting more pay for. And it's certainly something more appropriate for the level of risk that we've undertaken, and something to bring pay back up to what it should be, something closer to the cost of living. What do you think?
Yeah, it's as I say, yeah, I agree entirely with that. It's you know, sort of over the last 18 months especially, isn't it? It's like you know, we're the ones that have been coming to shifts throughout the whole pandemic. And certainly from my own point of view, perhaps the most striking thing, I think, is the cost of the fuel. So I haven't been furloughed. I've been traveling backwards and forwards to work to do the same shifts, you know, looking after the patients. And as you say, it's like at the end of the day, so I've been getting the same amount of money for the same shifts as last year. But even just in the cost of the fuel, it's like it's gone up by nearly 30 pence a litre, like around here where I live, in that time. And it's like, you know, 1% doesn't go anywhere near like even recouping back to the level at the start of the pandemic. And you just think, in a way, it's like, well, why are we doing this? You know, I love my job. I love what I'm doing. You know, I love the fact that I'm going to this sort of a new role to help educate, you know, healthcare support workers in their training, student nurses and newly qualified nurses, and I'm passing that baton of knowledge on. And it's something I feel passionate about. But you know, again, you do feel like, you know, nursing, although all the clapping of things, it's the profession that seems to be forgotten quite a lot, isn't it? And it's like, you know, they're already starting to throw money at teachers to go into teaching, you know, and the salary for a newly qualified teacher is again at the top end of a band 5 nurse. And it's like, well, to be quite honest, I can't really see the difference. You know, if you think they're a qualified professional and we are, why are we not getting the same kind of pay strategy? It's, you know, I struggle with some of that.
It's a strange one because, excuse me, I know I was looking at, there was an article in the Nursing Standard last week, and they were talking about the most recent research the Nursing and Midwifery Council had done about people leaving the profession. And the top 3 drivers they'd got for people leaving nursing were retirement, stress, and bad management. I was surprised they didn't mention pay, because you'd think with any other job, pay would be the primary sort of reason you're going.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes if that's part of the problem, that nurses don't actually, we go into it for a different reason. As a lot of public service workers do, you know, an altruistic reason. You're doing it to try and help your better man primarily, and to do something for other people. But we kind of put that thing about pay in the background. But I was really surprised when I saw that survey, because I would have thought the fact that we are not as well paid as other people would come into it. But nurses themselves didn't seem to think so. But then when I saw another piece of research that the Nursing Standard had done in relation with Sunday Mirror, they were saying 9 out of 10 nurses wanted to leave because of terms and conditions, including pay. So I don't know. Yeah. It gives mixed messages, but I would have thought pay was going to be the thing that was going to be primary at the moment for us.
I think obviously, the pay structure and the pay potential offer, etc., is always there, isn't it? I don't know whether you could, if you're saying people like leave through stress, I don't know whether the pay is the stress factor. It could well be, isn't it? The stress of like, oh, I can't pay my bills, I'm gonna have to look for somewhere else. So rather than just count it as pay as such, maybe link some of those other factors in. But it's like it's one of those professions, isn't it? That we come into the job. I guess we're kind of used to the fact that it's like, okay, it's not a particularly well-paid job, but we take that, and I, in a way, it's kind of like that for myself. It's like if it was purely financial, I could do the pharmacy job that I've done for years, and get more physical pay out of it. But in terms of the job satisfaction and feeling that you're actually helping people, and especially during this pandemic, isn't it, where you're putting yourselves at risk, helping others, helping families, helping the bereaved where you can, and it's been difficult in those situations, and you're doing it knowing full well that you're probably not getting what you would consider the right amount of pay for that job, and we still do it, and if we didn't, I think the NHS certainly would be in big problems, I think, and quite a lot of the time I feel the governments of the day, whichever one it is, rely far too much on that goodwill, I suppose, from the nursing staff, in that it doesn't really matter what we give them. We know that they're going to go into work. We know they're going to look after the patients to the best of their ability. You're not going to come into work and think, well, I haven't got 5% pay rise, therefore I'm not going to give you 5% of your injection. You do the same job, depending on how able you are to do that job, isn't it? Depending on what role you're in. But we all give it 100%.
And it's certainly nice to see that you were saying because likewise, I was lucky enough last year to go to the Florence Nightingale Museum down in London. And as you say, we're very quick to turn around and say the government. But when you look back over time, this is a problem that's been going on all the way back through into the middle of last century. There were news articles there about the 1970s, the 1990s, And regardless of what political party, nurses have always faced the same problems in achieving a meaningful pay deal and a meaningful wage for what they do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I suppose that would take us now to the question that we're at a point in time now where we've had the 1% offer across Britain. Luckily, Scotland has been offered 4%. Scotland, Wales, and Ireland nurses got a £500 bonus. In England, the applause just stopped, and that was it. But we're now at a point where almost every professional body that looks into nursing, trade unions, etc., have all said that this is a point where we can't really continue, and we need to be doing stuff to organise and discuss this with the government further. So, I mean, certainly the RCN's got its campaign going for it, which is part of the reason that we're here and talking today about the value of nursing. But how would you see it proceed from that point? And I know there's the traditional routes of contacting your assembly member, and we've got, of course, the section on the website devoted to the Fair Pay for Nursing campaign as well. But how would you see things moving forward for us to actually turn around and try and make the campaign go a bit further, Peter?
So yeah, sort of those aspects of it, isn't it? And it's making sure that certainly within like the RCN, making sure that they're aware of what the offers and things are going or likely to be offered to us as a pay rise. Making sure that we've got people's details up to date. So if there are campaigns that they want to participate in or contact members of either the Senate or contact your MP, isn't it? So it's things that are ongoing, and again, it's like we're using the mobile phones now because the computer links have gone down. It's like it's very similar during this period, isn't it? It's like we're struggling a little bit to certainly we're not having at the minute sort of regular meetings that we might have with our members in the hospitals. So we're having to do things sort of remotely, and that does make it a little bit more difficult. So it's really trying to push the emphasis that people engage, update their details, pass messages on full, WhatsApp groups or small groups, message their, members of the Senate or the MPs, isn't it? Whilst we've got the goodwill, I suppose, of the country behind us, because we know all too often that, sort of the goodwill disappears quite quickly. So while we've got, sort of people still working on COVID wards and things, and unfortunately we can see the numbers starting to rise again gradually. But while we've got the public on board with us, we need really need to push for that and to try and get that stance, isn't it, of giving a fair pay award, while we've got that backing behind us.
Yeah, and as you said, and probably you put forward there the most simple and direct way of doing it. We've got laptops, mobile phones. If people can't meet in person, certainly they can talk through social media about the issues. Certainly via the RCN website, they can sign up for updates and become a campaign supporter and keep up to date with details about what's happening. And definitely, as you said, everyone keeping their details up to date about what's happening, because heaven forbid, if it ever did become a circumstance where we decided to move further on this, we need people's details more than ever so we could ballot membership about things. Yeah. But as you say, that is something that's, people think it's big, but that's all just as far away as your phone. And
that's
your mobile phone is.
I was going to say, it's like they are such a good tool. It's I don't know quite sort of what it's like with you in North Wales, but certainly here it's like they are a good boon, but also we still get problems with like signal. It's like I don't even get a mobile phone signal where I live, so we get sort of issues with that. So at any opportunity where you can get people together or form a group, I think that's probably the way forward, isn't it? So you can put ideas out there, and even if you are putting something into, say, a group, and you lose the signal, at least you might get the sort of a reply a bit later, the next time you can pick it up. So certainly, sort of modern technology, internet is a good thing, isn't it? Like, years ago, we would be sitting or standing in a phone box at the end of the street trying to talk to each other and sticking extra 10p's in the slot, isn't it? and now here we are, like, having a video call, between North and South Wales. So yeah.
But at least it's sort of two people having a conversation about things, how they are, and how they should be, and how it could be moved forward as well.
Yeah.
So from that point, Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, and congratulations on your I was going to say forthcoming marriage. I was going to say I was in the same situation myself. I was supposed to get married on March last year, which didn't happen because of COVID. So it's been postponed until March next year. But there's hope for us all.
There is indeed. And I think that sounds like a great note to end on. Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, sir. Hope to meet you again.
And you.